What's a good typing experience to you? As somebody who spends their week typing scripts, gaming with friends, and browsing my PC, there are a few qualities I look for in a keyboard, including hot swap switches, THOCK, and gamer cat stylized keycaps. Today, we're looking at the Akko Mod007 keyboard, and this one's a little unique. It's their 7th anniversary special edition, but more on that in a little bit. The Mod007 has some interesting features from a brand I didn't know much about. Akko is a keyboard company founded in 2016. The Shenzhen-based company began its operations with a group of lifestyle gaming enthusiasts aiming to diversify the market and make mechanical keyboards the industry standard. Akko products come in all different colors, shapes, and sizes, with their keyboards ranging from a full size to a cozy 40%. Yes, 40% keyboards do exist. The cotton candy gamer cat inspired Mod007 sits comfortably in the middle at 75%, and this is the keyboard we're unboxing today. Disclaimer: Akko sent me this keyboard to review, but they have no input on my editorial decisions. All the thoughts you're about to hear are my own. The front of the box is definitely eye-catching, to say the least. I personally like the use of all the different colors and graphics. On the back of the box, we'll find the manufacturer information and what type of switches are included. I wish there was a bit more information here. It would have been nice to see what's supposed to be in the box on the outside of the box. When we open the box, we'll find the keyboard covered in a plastic case and a foam sleeve. The first thing you're probably going to notice is the loud artwork all over the keycaps, and I think it's awesome. I'm always a fan of seeing something new or unique, and this definitely falls into that category. I know in the quiet corridors of your thoughts, I can feel the sizzle of the burning question, eager to dance in the spotlight.
Does it THOCK, you ask? Shh. Not yet. We'll get there.
Diving deeper into the box, we'll find a telephone cord stylized USB cable, Akko branded keycap and switch puller, and last but not least, the user manual. The user manual actually comes in handy, if you can believe it or not. You can change between all the RGB color modes and brightnesses without the use of software. There's a combination of FN keypresses that will accomplish this, and if you don't like what comes stock, you can always change it later in the software. The keyboard itself features a singular USB Type-C port, adjustable height legs, and a 2.4 GHz wireless dongle. The Mod007 supports both Bluetooth and wireless modes. The on and off switch is like right under the caps key, so you have to pull off the caps key and then you can switch it between the two modes. It typically takes about 8 hours to charge the 3500 milliamp hour battery, and you'll get about 14 hours of wireless use with no backlight. To each their own, but I absolutely love the keycaps on this thing. I love how bright, vibrant, and sharp they are. The gamer cat is an added bonus. I mean, look how cute he is. In case you're curious, these are PBT dye sublimation keycaps. Try saying that 10 times fast. Meaning the legends won't fade very easily, and it should THOCK when you type. The dye sublimation process is totally different than just printing the image on top of the keycap. Generally, with printed keycaps, the legends will wear over time due to the friction produced by your fingertips. If you're not familiar, dye sublimation is a process used to produce the legends by superheating the dye, causing it to turn into a gas. The gas penetrates into the top layers of the keycap, creating the legend or image. This means after repeated use, the legends should still remain on the keycap, since the legend is now layers deep into the keycap instead of just being printed on the surface. Dye sublimation is like a tattoo for your keycaps, whereas printing is like a temporary tattoo. The keycaps are designed in an OEM profile with a moderate incline, less extreme than cherry profile keycaps, and have a bit of texture to them. They're not smooth like polycarbonate. The PBT will make your fingers grip a little bit more. When we remove the keycaps, we see that the LEDs on the PCB are south-facing, which is always something I like to see. This keyboard features a lot of different RGB settings that can be adjusted on the keyboard using the FN keyboard macros or with the software. Now, aside from the keycaps and LEDs, the Mod007 features hot swappable switches, and according to Akko, this is the first keyboard in the world to be compatible with any 3-pin mechanical switch or their magnetic switches. A 3-pin mechanical switch looks like this. There are 2 copper pins and 1 plastic pin. The copper pins plug into the PCB and register the key actuation. Inside the mechanical switch, you'll see 2 copper leaves that make contact when the switch is pressed. This tells the keyboard the switch has been pressed. Hall magnetic switches look like mechanical switches, except you'll find a small magnet at the end of the key switch stem. The Hall magnetic switches do not need to plug into the PCB like mechanical switches do. Instead, when the key is depressed, the PCB determines how far the magnet is traveling on the key switch. If the magnet travels to or past where the actuation depth has been set in the software, then the key press is registered as an actuation. Hall effects based switches are awesome. They can determine your actuation depth up to 0.1 millimeter. The coolest part about these things is you don't have to wait for the key to reset until you can depress and actuate it again. As soon as the PCB detects that the switch stem it begins to travel up, you can depress the key again and have it registered. You get an insanely unfair advantage over people who are not using this. And we'll go over why when we talk about the software in just a little bit. The specific switches that come stock are the Akko Yellow Creams. These are Akko's magnetic switches, and I've really enjoyed using them. Just a heads up, these switches do not ship pre-lubed, so if you want that THOCK sound, you're going to have to invest your time, disassemble the switches, and lube them up yourself. We'll get into an A/B sound test in a little bit. Hey guys, Editing Patrick here. Akko wrote me back to let me know that the stabs are pre-lubed, but the switches are only slightly lubed, whatever that means. I just wanted to make sure I got this information out. I can't believe it, but I also forgot to tell you to like this video and subscribe. I can't believe I didn't put that in the script, but make sure you do that. All right, thanks. I love you. Bye. The variety this thing offers is awesome. This is the world's first keyboard to support both magnetic switches and 3-pin mechanical switches. I'm not entirely sure if you can use them both at the same time though. The last keyboard I used with Hall magnets was the Wooting60HE. I'm excited to see other companies catching on and creating competition. The experience you get using magnetic switches is nothing short of incredible. I wouldn't be surprised if Hall magnetic switches become the standard for keyboards in the next 3 to 5 years. All the hype about magnetic switches aside, one of the differences between the Akko 007 and something like the Wooting60HE is the amount of flex the board produces. The stock Wooting60HE uses a steel switch plate. The Akko 007 uses a polycarbonate switch plate. This is why in the Wooting you get a bit of a higher ping sound when you type. You'll get better acoustics out of the Akko, but it will produce more of a flex. But hey, we're willing to sacrifice a little flex for THOCK. Speaking of acoustics, the Akko comes gasket mounted with plenty of sound dampening foam to produce the highest levels of THOCK possible. Akko features software that can be downloaded or you can use their web UI, and you guys know how much I like web UIs. If you remember back when we reviewed the Wooting60HE, I said this.
Other manufacturers take notice and copy this feature. This is what I want to see on mice, on keyboards, on headsets, everything. I'm
very happy to see other brands using web UIs for their devices. For the Akko keyboard, you can write any changes you make to the onboard memory profile on the keyboard, meaning it will be the same wherever you take it without needing the software installed on the PC, Mac, tablet, whatever you're using it for. Some other reviews knock some points on Akko for the software that was pre-installed on the keyboard. Luckily, since then, they've solved a lot of the bugs. Updating the keyboard was really easy. Once you update the keyboard firmware, you can basically change whatever you want through the web UI or software. Of course, you're able to adjust the RGB any way you want. You can select multiple colors, static colors, animations, whatever you want. It's got it. You can do it. Alright, RGB. You can even upload your own presets or download other people's RGB presets. I'd love to see this more in other software and from other manufacturers. I thought this was a really cool feature. You can also use Mod Tap, which allows a single key press to trigger 2 separate functions. Probably one of the most important features though comes down to how you really use the Hall magnetic switches. You can see the actuation depth per key. Since the PCB is aware of the switch's position at all times, you can tell the keyboard where you want the key switch to trigger an actuation. Rapid Trigger allows the key switch to be actuated once the PCB detects that the switch begins to travel upward. You don't need to wait for the key switch to fully reset like you would with a mechanical switch. This is such an advantage for any speed-based competitive game. For example, in Counter-Strike, in order to hit your shots, you'll need to counter-strafe using A and D. If you're using magnetic switches, you don't want to wait for the key to fully reset in order to counter-strafe faster. You can literally input more data into the game than they can at any given moment. This is such an insane advantage for games like CSGO, Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, any game where you need to input controls faster than your opponent. So let's put this whole thing together. Let's put it all together. The keyboard ships with hot swappable magnetic switches, dye sublimation keycaps, has Bluetooth and wireless modes, has a web-based UI, and onboard memory. What isn't there to love? All for $140. For comparison, for something like this from Corsair, Asus, or any other big brand, you'd probably be paying upwards of $200. And you'd have to run their bloatware software on your PC 24/7 to get the functionality you want. Not only do I think this is a good deal, but I would go out of my way to tell you to check out Akko before any of the other regular household brands we all know. So before we end, there's one question left to answer. Does it THOCK? Well, you tell me.